a 55-year-old gentleman presented with complaints of poor flow, 6 months duration, with the daytime frequency of 6 and nighttime frequency of 1. He had left lower limb edema since 10 days. He denies any hematuria or burning maturation or any complaints of cough, breathlessness or back pain. He is a known diabetic and hypertensive since 2 years.
Okay, Dr. Jude, anything unusual in the history? What do you suspect?
Firstly, sir, this is a 55-year-old gentleman with complaints of voiding as well as storage LUTs for the last 6 months. The unusual thing here is he has left lower limb edema, which is quite uncommon and usually not associated with patients complaining with symptoms of LUTs.
So, two things is a history of short durations.
Yes, sir.
And number two, you should have clarified what they have said is on the unilateral limb edema.
Yes, sir. Unilateral.
Okay, so you should emphasize unilateral limb edema. Suppose it is bilateral, I end up thinking something different.
Right, sir.
Inside the limb, edema of the limb is definitely an odd feature. So
right,
what's working in your mind?
Sir, if we think of all these three symptoms as a whole symptom complex, the first thing that comes to my mind is some abdominopelvic pathology that has involved the pelvic lymph nodes also, causing compression of the venous return or lymphatic return, resulting in lower limb edema. I would think of in the lines of carcinoma of the prostate, since it is associated with LUTS. Also, lower down in my diagnosis would be a very small possibility of carcinoma bladder involving the pelvic lymph nodes. And if we consider LUTs and lower limb edema as separate entities, then it will be specific differentials for LUTs. And for lower limb edema, I would think about filariasis or chronic venous insufficiency or DVT or cellulitis.
Very good. Very good. Okay, go ahead. You want to ask anything particular?
So in this case, I would like to inquire more about the LUTs, how he has the onset of frequency, whether it was sudden, whether it was associated with any fever or dysuria. I would like to also inquire about other voiding symptoms like intermittency, sense of incomplete evacuation, voiding, and then calculate an IPSS score for the same.
Okay.
I would like to consider here the possibility of CA prostate, that is prostatomegaly, that can be either benign or malignant. Second differential would be stricture urethra, that may cause renal deterioration, but in that case, the patient would most likely present with bilateral lower limb edema.
So number one in your mind is some malignant disease of the prostate, okay?
Yes, sir. Right.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Do you like to ask anything in the history?
Yes, sir. So regarding the malignancy of the prostate, I would like to ask whether he has any family history of prostate cancer or prostate-related deaths in the family. I would also like to inquire whether he underwent any procedures for prostate, any previous biopsies. I would like to inquire about systemic manifestations of prostate disease. In this case, he already has unilateral lower limb edema. I would like to ask for any past history of acute urinary retention, bilateral flank pain to rule out hydronephrosis and upper tract changes, any lower back pains, bone pains, or back pain radiating to the buttocks. And finally, to rule out any chest or lung metastasis, I would like to rule out any history of cough, breathlessness, hemoptysis, or dyspnea.
Okay. Good, so far good, but you must also ask about, as I emphasized in the past also, the use of antiplatelet agents. They are pretty common these days. And if what a biopsy done, if this patient will need possibly a plan of biopsy, and that is in the back of your mind.
Right, sir.
Okay. He is diabetic for 2
So he
years.
is diabetic and hypertensive for 2 years.
Yes. 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 Go ahead.
So on examination, I would like to inquire about the general condition of examine the general condition of the patient in the form of his performance status. In this case, he is a good performance status. He has a good performance status with a low age, relatively lower age, if we consider CA prostate. His BP is normal. His BMI is in the obesity grade 1 category, so it is a little high on the higher side. So I would like to proceed with abdominal examination, per abdomen examination, followed by inguinal examination, followed by external genital examination, and finally digital rectal examination.
So it's good that you should see the external meatus, palpate the urethra and the penis.
Yes, sir.
You should see the cords and then you do a DRE, okay?
Right, sir.
So here it says a 20-gram prostate with hard left lobe. It is not a good practice to give a gram on DRE. It is easy classic to say, what grade of enlargement is there. And you should say is symmetrical or asymmetrical.
Whether nodularity is there, whether nodularity, tenderness, grade of prostate, fixity, palpation of median lobe, and whether the rectal mucosa is fixed to the prostate.
And the lateral sulcus also.
Yes, sir. Right.
To try to reach the upper border, if you can, anything, yeah.
Right,
so all these things, fine. And there is left lower limb edema. This you must specify in the examination. This edema is only at the foot or in the below the knee joint, in the cup level, or in the thigh on that side. So you must be specific on that.
I would like to know the extent of the edema by examination, whether there is any redness or tenderness, whether there are any dilated veins which would rule out varicosities, and redness would definitely rule out DVT, absence of redness and pain.
Yeah, so I would say this examination finding, whatever they are given, is not complete. See, at this time, at least you would be able to reach a kind of clinical diagnosis, staging disease, okay?
I would also like to look for inguinal examination, because any inguinal pathology, inguinal lymph node enlargement would lead to left lower limb edema specifically.
Okay, go ahead.
So on evaluation, initial evaluation consisted of hemoglobin, which appears normal, serum creatinine is normal, LFT, urine analysis and urine culture are normal. He also underwent a serum PSA, which came to be high. So he is a 55-year-old gentleman with abnormal DRE findings with serum PSA of 11.2 and edema in the left lower limb. That would make my suspicion of CA prostate very strong in this case. So I would like to proceed with an ultrasound abdomen initially.
Okay.
So ultrasound
abdomen, what do you want to see on ultrasound abdomen? Why specific?
Basically, ultrasound abdomen, because we want to see the size of the prostate. Firstly, from the starting from the kidneys, we want to see whether any dilatation is there. Since I am considering a possibility of CA prostate, it may involve the ureter and cause hydronephrosis. So that I would like to rule out. Secondly, the size of prostate is important. The PVR is important. The status of the bladder is important, because this patient has presented with LUT, so he may have benign prostatic hyperplasia along with CA prostate. So the bladder status we have to know, bladder wall thickness, and whether any trabeculations. Also, in the history of LUTs is quite recent in this patient, but in longer history, patients with longer history, I would like to rule out any bladder stone on ultrasound. And lastly, I would like to rule out any involvement of pelvic lymph nodes, which may relate to the lower limb edema.
So, in ultrasound examination, which group of pelvic node you can study?
Sorry, sir?
In ultrasound examination, which group of pelvic node you can study?
Usually the ultrasound will...
We're talking of the abdominal ultrasound, okay?
Yes, sir. So the lower abdominal and para-aortic, inter-aortic cable lymph nodes, the retroperitoneal lymph nodes are most well defined by ultrasound and detected. It has less sensitivity for pelvic lymph nodes and specifically inguinal lymph nodes.
Yeah. See, your ultrasound is not a good modality to assess the internal iliac nodes and the obturator nodes, but it can study the external iliac group of nodes and the pre-aortic and para-aortic nodes.
Right.
Okay. Okay, fine.
So next I would like to, after this ultrasound, I would like to proceed for a multiparametric MRI of the prostate.
Why do you want to do a multiparametric MRI?
Multiparametric MRI.
You have already got a palpable nodule in the prostate in one lobe.
Yes, sir. So multiparametric MRI in this case would give a lot of extra information in the form of, it is in fact the best investigation for local staging of CA prostate. It would give me information about the possibility of clinically significant nodule, the nodule which is palpable, as well as foci of other presence of other foci of nodules within the prostate. Secondly, it will give me information about extraprostatic extension of the disease. It would also tell me about the involvement of neurovascular bundles, and it is also a good modality for investigation of the pelvic lymph nodes.
Dr. Julio, I just like to say that whatever you said is very brilliant, but I say that in this particular patient, you already have got a palpable nodule. So therefore, you are going to get a biopsy done without any doubt on this.
Yes, sir.
And for staging purpose, the extent of the disease and about the involvement of the neurovascular bundles, you don't need all those protocols. You know, in multiparametric MRI, what are the protocols you follow? Because each protocol in MRI takes longer time.
For multiparametric MRI, there are usually anatomical and functional scans. Anatomical consists mainly of T2 and sometimes T1, and functional consists of dynamic contrast, diffusion weighted, and MR spectroscopy.
Yes. So the dynamic contrast enhancement and your
the diffusion weighted.
Fourth one, yes, diffusion weighted imaging. These are needed to identify the various high-grade pyrite scorings. Okay. For the staging anatomical study purpose, you need mainly T2 and sometimes T1. So therefore, that's why I'm saying that you must be very clear in your mind that if you have got an obvious disease, then you do not need to do all the protocols. And there are more and more information coming that possibly non-contrast enhanced imaging is sufficient for diagnosis of
Yes, sir. Biparametric.
Biparametric. Fine. So you are well read. So just for your thing, I just want to emphasize that. So don't say time multiparametric MRI.
Yes.
Fine. Suppose you didn't palpate anything and his PSA would have been like that, then definitely you would have asked for it. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead. They are giving uroflowmetry.
Uroflowmetry, I would consider later in this patient, not very urgent investigation. I would like to rule out, my priority would be to rule out a CA prostate first, and if that is safely ruled out, then I would like to do a uroflowmetry and then proceed. So was MPMRI done?
Yeah, chest X-ray.
Was MPMRI done in this case? I think it was done. Yeah. So MPMRI is showing 1.8 by 1 centimeter hypo-intense lesion in the left peripheral zone of prostate with no seminal vesicle involvement. and there is a 5 by 2 centimeter lymph node mass encasing the left external iliac vein. So that most likely explains the left lower limb edema. No evidence of DVT.
Okay.
So yeah, I would like to now post MRI. I would like to proceed with biopsy.
Are you happy with this MRI report?
Sir, a lot of information is missing.
Yes.
Like I said, the extraprostatic extension, the involvement of neurovascular bundles,
And they should also give the PIRAD scoring.
PIRAD score, yeah.
PIRAD scoring. So you must be, all should be familiar with the various PIRAD scoring and what PIRAD score is significant for your diagnosis of the cancer prostate. Okay?
Right, sir.
Okay. So as you are saying that you are definitely now you want to proceed for a histological diagnosis.
Yes, sir. So I would like to proceed with transrectal ultrasound guided biopsy. In this
How do you
case.
prepare the patient for that?
For the biopsy, I would like to prepare the patient one day in advance by giving 4 charcoal 2 Dulcolex tablets night before the night before the procedure. On the day of procedure, I would like to start him, give him prophylactic antibiotics, and ensure that he has taken the Dulcolex tablets last night, because a loaded rectum would not be an ideal condition to do the biopsy, and check his coagulation profile prior to the biopsy.
And you will also check his urine culture report.
Culture report. Yes.
So see the culture report, you ensure that the rectum is empty. You want to give a prophylactic antibiotic. Okay?
Right.
If the culture is sterile, what antibiotic do you use? You use one protocol, that will be enough.
Yeah, we usually use ofloxacin or nidazole.
Combination of
Yes, sir.
ofloxacin and nidazole. Okay, fine. That's good. But ofloxacin is not a very good urinary antiseptic. You know why? I would say better combination is ciprofloxacin and
Ofloxacin has less penetration in the prostate, so it is.
There is one more good answer for this. Ofloxacin is not very well absorbed from the GI tract. So it is for the GI tract, but not so good for the urinary tract. Therefore, ciprofloxacin is better for urinary tract. Okay?
Okay.
Both ciprofloxacin and oral combination is a better medicine than ofloxacin. Okay?
Okay.
Good.
So for the biopsy, I would like to take targeted biopsy from the lesion that was seen on MP-MRI, and as well as take double sectant 12 core biopsies in this case.
How do you send these codes?
Sorry, sir.
How do you send these 12 codes biopsy or maybe extra?
All different. All in different.
Very nice.
Containers.
All in separate vials and labeled in sequence.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the report given to you.
The prostate biopsy report says adenocarcinoma acinar type, Gleason 5+4 9, that makes ISUP grade 4. Tumor noted in all 12 cores, 80% involvement in each core, and perineural invasion.
So you have failed the disease only in one lobe. Biopsy says that he has got a diffuse disease in one.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So,
Okay, you have said the staging. Now you have got the DRE finding, you have got the MRI finding, you have got the biopsy report.
MRIs did not show any extra prostatic extension, or did not comment on it. I want to ask whether there was any extra prostatic extension.
Any information, Dr. Kulnakar? Possibly no.
There is no extra prostatic.
No extra prostatic.
Okay.
So the stage becomes clinical T2B N1, and M is still has to be assessed. I would like to go for M assessment now.
Okay.
So for M assessment, we have two options, either depending on availability of PSMA PET, If PSMA PET is available, I would like to straight away go for it. And if PSMA PET is not available, then the patient will have to undergo a CECT abdomen plus pelvis along with HRCT chest
Chest.
and a bone scan.
Bone scan. Okay. Okay. So what was done? Dr. Nayak or Guru?
Next slide.
F18
Bone scan was done, which showed metastasis in occiput, right and left ribs 6 to 8, and left iliac crest. So these are multiple bony metastasis in this patient, making it one. So multiple bony metastasis with high volume disease, metastatic CA prostate. So that concludes the staging to T2B, N1, and M1.
So now the options available to you.
Before starting,
What are your goals of treatment, Dr. Juhail?
I would like to explain to the patient first that you have got a metastatic disease. Involve the medical oncologist along with the discussion, and will tell the patient. I will tell the patient that he will likely need lifelong systemic therapy to prolong the disease. CA prostate is an incurable disease. All we can do is prolong the life of the patient.
The patient has come to you with lower unit symptom.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget that.
Yes, sir. So prior to that, I would like to also start him on alpha blockers to alleviate his symptoms.
Okay. Now, for the management of this disease, what are the broad options for you before you refer him to?
For metastatic CA prostate, I would like to divide the treatment into 4 main categories. Firstly, is the systemic therapy. Systemic therapy is mainly given in the form of ADT, and the most recent standard of care for systemic therapy is combination ADT. ADT can be given in the form of surgical castration or medical castration in the form of LHRH agonist or antagonist, while combination therapy, one of any of these drugs, that is docetaxel, abiraterone, and enzalutamide, may be added to ADT depending on patient fitness. Second concern would be whether this patient will benefit from local therapy to the prostate in the form of radiotherapy or radical prostatectomy. Recent evidences have shown that the local therapy is only beneficial in low volume disease, so I would advise this patient against any form of local treatment. And
on the other hand, radiotherapy might aggravate his lower unit symptom at this stage.
Yes, sir. Might aggravate that. Yes. And lastly, I would like to counsel him about the possibility of future need of any palliative care in the form of catheterization or SPC for urinary retention or channel TURP, or any therapy directed to the bone or the spinal cord in case of spinal MIPS.
Yeah, you are very correct in saying that, and at the same time you can say that with the androgen deprivation therapy, his prostatic symptoms might improve. Might improve. So he may not need those therapies, but of course, if his symptom persists, he will need one of those therapies as you mentioned it.
Yes, sir.
Very good. What is the outcome of this treatment for this gentleman? You know, he is young, he is 56, and he has got I'll say, advanced disease. You know, it's very short history.
In studies, it has been shown that with treatment, the average prognosis of patients with metastatic prostate cancer is 42 months. The prognosis is 42 months from the time of diagnosis if ADT is started.
Dr. Sahil, don't be so dogmatic. You know, don't utter 40 months or 42 months. You always have a range. You know, after all, it's a biological disease, and the behavior varies in person to person. But
yes, sir.
Usually you say that their lifespan is usually something 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years, yes.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
Yes.
The introduction of these newer anti-androgens, as you named,
Yes, sir.
usually it has become a kind of chronic disease.
Right, sir.
So therefore, we should never utter something in front of the patient which might hurt their sentiments. We
Yes,
should
sir.
say things in a much diplomatic way, tell the facts, but in a better way.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And of course, as he has projected, they are trying to curtail the side effects of androgen deprivation therapy by supplementing bone-based therapies. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. I think good.
Thank you, sir.
Next slide.
So before preparing the patient for ADT, we will do a baseline DEXA scan and then start on ADT. In this patient, ADT was started, injection Eligard, sorry, previous slide.
1 minute.
Yeah. Yeah, so bone scan showed osteoporosis and vitamin D3 was very low. So before starting ADT, I would like to give some lifestyle change advices to the patient regarding
class. Can you talk later?
uh,
Wrong number count कर रहा हूँ.
रॉन्ग नंबर ये सर आपकी बाइक नहीं है
नहीं. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. His DEXA scan shows osteoporosis with a very low vitamin D3 level. So I would like to advise him some lifestyle changes regarding his osteoporosis. I would like to advise him some weight-bearing exercise, regular weight-bearing exercise, reduce weight, and start him on calcium and vitamin D3 supplementation prior to starting ADT.
Yeah, it's a question of balancing everything together,
Yes. So his ADT was started, injection Eligard leuprolide, that is 45 milligrams subcutaneously, 6 monthly, with zoledronic acid 4 milligram, 100 ml every 3 months.
When you start Eligard, he has got a metastatic disease. So would you take some precaution?
Yes, sir. In case of Eligard, that is leuprolide, that is a GHRH agonist. GHRH agonists cause initial flare of testosterone, PSA, as well as clinical symptoms. So before starting leuprolide, for 1 week, I would like to give an androgen receptor blocker and continue the receptor blocker for at least 3 to 4 weeks before withdrawing it to prevent the flare of symptoms.
By what time, if you have used the agonist, like in this case they have used Eligard, by what time you wish to achieve a therapeutic castrate level?
Therapeutic castrate levels in case of LHRH agonists are usually achieved in 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, mostly.
After an initial flare.
Yeah, it is true, but it needs to be checked actually. It needs to be checked.
Yes, I think Campbell has written at least 3 weeks to be given ADT because the flare usually persists for less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, what I was saying that this may not be seen in 100% patients. So achieve this in 90% patients, and therefore it is important to check it that whether you have reached that castrate level or not.
Yes, sir.
Good.
So after 3 months, his left lower limb edema resolved, and what was the last thing? PSA is 1.2. So PSA has declined symptomatically. Also, he has improved. On 3 months, docetaxel chemotherapy was given, 6 cycles, and CBC, LFT normal, urine culture normal, and echo normal. Yes, so this is the correct course of treatment. I would like to agree with this. And after 6 months, his PSA is 0.245 And PET CT was done, which showed left obturator and inguinal lymph node 2.7 centimeter with left paraaortic lymph nodes 1.2 centimeter.
It is not mentioned whether these nodes were PSA may have hit.
Yes, sir.
That need to be mentioned actually.
Right, sir. So he is improving with ADT, and I would like to continue ADT for as long.
Sure, as long he remains in remission.
Hormone sensitive. Follow up on 9 months, completed 6 cycles of docetaxel, Eligard 6 monthly, PSA is 0.07, which is acceptable, very good. PET CT left point subcentimetric paraaortic lymph node and stable residual obturator and external lymph node. So he is doing well on ADT, and I would like to follow him up on ADT. Meanwhile, I would like to regularly do 6 monthly, initially 3 monthly PSA, and then later 6 monthly PSA to look for any disease progression.
In the follow-up, suppose his PSA goes up, at what level of PSA you will consider further therapy? Say his PSA was 0.07 or something. He comes back with a report of 0.01. 0.1.
0.07 to 0.1. So I would not be concerned with this PSA, with a single reading of PSA. According to the definition of castrate resistance, firstly, the testosterone levels must be subcastrate level, that is less than 50. And secondly, PSA progression has been defined as 3 consecutive rises in PSA with at least 2 PSA rises above the nadir, 50% above the nadir. So a minor increase in PSA, this much increase, 0.07 to 0.1, I would not be concerned. I would like to repeat a PSA after 1 week.
Okay, good. I think we have got fair discussions. That's fair. At your level, this is very, very nice. Very nice.